only do things incredible can, 'cause I am one of the reasons you do what you do when you wanna be me instead of you. 'Cause I am still on beat, showing love to the streets. Come on, you know me, 'cause that's who I am.
Welcome to the stadium post-game show. We're trying to figure out what's going on right now with the sound. Oh, wait, it's gone. Actually, I think I know what the problem is. Just give me 1 moment. I'm going to send it over to Dennis and Will.
All right.
All right. Welcome to the post game show. That's good.
Man, having
And welcome back to the stadium pregame show with our Reverend Dennis Davis and our Deacon Will Boykins and Calvin's here in the studio right now.
do you want me to say something?
All right. Can you hear me now? JT's not on. Okay.
Well, I can hear you. I can hear Dennis.
Knock those cues off.
Right now. Yeah.
All right. We're here for the post game show. Despite all the troubles tonight for Shelby and us, we're here. We're live.
here.
We're in person.
We're inside. Knock those off.
We're
Okay.
getting a lot of feedback, Calvin, but
We're
we'll
just getting
keep
a lot
on
of
talking.
feedback. I can't hear it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we can only do so much in here. I'm only partly. Yeah. That might help.
There you go. Now is that better?
All right.
Thank you.
Now we
And
we
to
can
all
move
those
on.
of you who-
Okay. Yeah, I wondered what the echo was. Now I know what it was. It was the cue was on. Okay.
Meanwhile,
That
back
makes
at the
sense.
ranch.
All
Thank
right.
you, Will.
We've got
Thank
some
you.
scores. Will?
All right. It was Mount Airy over Robbinsville, 27-6. It was West Columbus falling to Tarboro, 49-12, which set up the state championship game between Tarboro and Mount Airy. It was the Reidsville Rams beating the Shelby Lions 49-14. It was Clinton Dark Horses beating the Northeastern Eagles 36-22, which set up the two-way title. state title between Reidsville Rams and the Clinton Dark Horses. It's gonna be a
Slobber
it's
knocker.
gonna be a slobber knocker.
Well, what about this next game?
All right, so tonight it was 71st Falcons over the Northern Nash Knights, 50-28.
Yeah.
And it was the Hickory Red Tornadoes over the Dudley Panthers, 42-41. What a heck of a ball game. Hickory came out of the chute on this game.
Well, Hickory came out early,
Hard.
went up, and then Dudley came back.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised at this score. I thought Dudley had the size and the speed to beat Hickory, but what Dudley did to Crest last week, Hickory did to Dudley tonight. And what Dudley had been doing to everybody else, Hickory did to Dudley.
Yeah.
So from
So
that
set up the 74. So that's 71st is a Raleigh school. 71st versus the Hickory Red Tornadoes for the state 3A title.
Well, all those Eastern people have been telling us all year how good 71st was. And the people who had seen Dudley told us how good Dudley was. And the people who had seen Crest told us how good they were. And some people talked about Hickory, but not that much. But in the end here, it looks like Hickory is going to be taking on 71st for the championship next week.
I think that's gonna be a slobber knocker as well.
I concur with you. The Hickory quarterback is a very precision passer. He is a baseball guy, and evidently he has a good arm on him as far as throwing. And so, in a little bit of a surprise to us, although Hickory is the more local team for us, Hickory was able to come back and win tonight against Dudley, a formidable foe. Hats off to both those teams tonight, but it's going to be Hickory versus 71st next week.
Yeah, I think more on my side was the surprise that Hickory lost the lead that they had against Dudley. I really think the win Dudley had last week was more of Cress's miscues than it was of Dudley overpowering him. And this week when Dudley went up to Hickory just overpowered him right off the gate. Was up like I think it was at one time was at 22 or 21 to like 7.
Yeah.
It was early. It was. I remember
Hickory
it being.
just took off.
Yeah, I remember it being 10-0 at one time, and then 17, and then it was like 22 or whatever, however it came out to be, and so they just took off, and I was thinking, well, they're gonna run away with this. So, but Dudley is a school full of pride, so they came back and they showed they had some heart. Of course, Hickory showed that they had heart by finishing that game off. A 1 point win is the same as a 100-point win.
Well, before on the pregame show, Will, I said that last week Dudley was bigger, stronger, and faster than the Crest team last week. And that's what counted. And they won in advance. Now, tonight, I think the same thing happened to them that I mentioned before several years ago when Crest played Catholic at Catholic. That Crest won the game, but they lost the war.
Yeah.
Because Catholic was so big and so hard that those boys put everything they had to beat Catholic on the line.
Yeah.
And when they went to the championship game the next week, they got beat by a team that wasn't as good as they was. Now, I'm not saying that Hickory's not as good as Dudley, but I'm thinking that what Dudley did was they spent so much effort and strength in beating Crest last week that tonight the tank was a little bit empty, if you will.
Yeah, but their kicker didn't slip and miss the extra point, and it caused them to lose. I remember that one.
You remember that well.
Bad.
we had a gentleman named Bullard who now plays for the Vikings on that
Yeah.
team, and we had a young man by the name of Ledbetter who went down to Florida, and I don't know where he ended up. I think he transferred to Southern, but anyway, they had some good players all across the board, but Catholic was loaded.
All right. As they are every year.
And they had, those guys, the linemen that were going to Notre Dame or, someplace like that. And they had a good quarterback, running back, and it was a tough battle. And the battle that week took out of them the thing that they needed the following week. I hope that's not the case with Hickory tonight, that Hickory played smart. But Hickory got behind, and they came back. Let's hope they didn't use all their luck up and that they're ready to go next week in the state championship against a very tough 71st Falcons.
71st team. That I'm surprised that school is a 3A school. To be honest with you, that 71st school is huge.
It is, and I think, if my memory serves me correct, they're undefeated. I can look it up here, but I believe they were one of those teams that came into this game without a losing record. Let me just check and see, Will.
All right. So just while he's checking that, last score tonight, it was the Hagen Vikings 41 and the Cardinal Gibbons Crusaders 20.
Okay.
And
Just to verify that, 71st was 14-0. Will, let me interrupt you here. We've got the man with the plan here, Jeff Jones. Jeff, sorry about it. Tell us all about the game tonight from your viewpoint. Yep. But Jeff, let's give credit here. Reidsville had a 6'7" wide receiver. You guys don't have anybody that could actually match up one-on-one with him. And as you told, he threw the ball. Yep. Well, I thought Shelby played the ball in position very well, but you just hit the nail on the head. You've got a 6'7" receiver against, I don't know what, a 5'11", 6-foot defensive back, and the guy just goes up and Randy Mosses it. Yeah. Well, Jeff, when you said 2 years ago, this quarterback Lee came to Shelby and got his hat handed to him, you've got a sophomore quarterback. So in 2 years, when they come to Shelby, you can take care of him because your senior quarterback by that time will be very, very good, Jeff. And they will be good next year, Jeff. And I can feel your pain because tonight, in a close one, I don't know if you heard it or not, Hickory Red Tornadoes 42, Dudley Panthers 41. So we were not able to get a read on the game other than the score. Will, do you have anything?
Yeah, so Dudley missed extra point.
Dudley missed it.
They had the lead at 41-35.
Been there and done that in the state championship game. So my feelings go out to Dudley. But I appreciate it, Jeff. Well, you guys be safe on the way home. It's a little wet out there. Take your time, be careful. And Jeff, it's been a pleasure listening to you and Brett both this year. We'll see you over at the Christmas party.
Yeah, we'll see you guys at the Christmas party. And again, y'all did a great job this year. We appreciate everything y'all done for the station and covering them.
Thank you. Bye.
You the same.
All right, folks, you've heard it right here. You heard the game. You heard the crack team that brought the game to you right here. If there's any questions, for right now, we're going to take a break. Pay the bills. Calvin, don't do this for free. And we'll be back shortly. And welcome back. And JP. Yeah, we ain't taking all the blame for this.
JP is running around. He don't forgot to call us. He don't forgot to call out the church. Yeah, he can't. The show, the last show, and he's gonna forget to give us our proper callings here.
Well, at least he remembered his own name.
I know. At least he remembered his name this time.
Thank
He
you,
did.
JP. We appreciate your
you.
effort.
We appreciate you, JP.
All right. Will, this is a post-game show. Give them the post-game scores.
All right, so we went over the 1A, which is 1A championship is gonna be Mount Airy versus Tarboro. The 2A state champion is gonna be Reedsville Rams versus Clinton, and the 3A championship is gonna be Hickory versus 71st. Haven't went over the 4A.
Yeah, go over 4A scores.
Hoggart 41, Cardinal Givens Crusaders 20, Independence 14, Weddington 34, which set up a number 1 versus a number 1.
And the defending state champion in Weddington. I
And a
believe.
defending state champion in Weddington in the
Wow.
4A.
Well, Will, this was some good football this week in a couple of these games, but there's going to be some more good football next week for the big trophy of state champions.
Yeah.
Let's just take a quick look at those. You got Mount Airy. The Granite Bears have been good and solid all year, and they're going to be playing the Tarboro Vikings. Will, what do you think about that match?
Okay, so the Tarboro Vikings is the number 1 seed, and Mount Airy Bears, Granite Bears, the Granite Bears are number 4 seed. So you have to give the edge to Tarboro on that one.
Well, now the Mount Airy Granite Bears are now 15-0, and the Tarboro team is 13-0. So you've got two matchups of two Titans there. I don't know why Tarboro's only played 12 games before tonight.
Ain't nobody out there in the East can play.
But next week in the championship game, a power from the East, that's Tarboro. They have a long history.
They do.
And they're going to play the Mount Airy Granite Bears, which is a power from the West. That irresistible force is going to make the immovable object. What's your call on that?
So Tarboro just recently moved down to the 1A.
Yeah.
So they're probably still playing like they're 2A right now.
Or 3A. They used to be
3A.
3A.
3A used to play. That's gonna. I think all 4 games next week are going to be really good games. You got a 1-4, a 1-1, a 2-2, and a 1-1. I think all 4 games are going to be awesome games to go watch. I wouldn't know which one I would want to see, but I know that they're going to be televised, and I'm going to watch some ball games.
Well, when you get down to this time of the year, there's no bad football teams playing.
There's none.
Even if your side of the state was a little slack, if you get this far, you've proven yourself.
You've proven yourself, yeah.
You're a worthy opponent. And therefore, next week, these games they're all televised.
Yes.
And
all
so
4 games will be televised.
You can watch them at home, folks. You don't have to go sit in the rain and the cold or the wind. We won't be broadcasting them here on KTC.
No. None of these. The only one is Hickory, and we really don't cover it. Hickory just played.
If somebody in Hickory's got the cash, we'll
cover
talk the trash.
We'll talk the trash for them.
Yeah.
For sure. So if anybody's out there watching and want the game of Hickory to put on, we'll cover the game of Hickory.
Yeah, we'll send a crack team down there, give you the play-by-play right here. Shelby had a fantastic comeback this year, Will. I think the reason was they started out 0-3, was because they were playing very tough competition. And as a result of playing very tough competition, they received their reward in the year by having won 11 straight games prior to tonight. Now, I don't know what Reidsville had this year. Jeff Jones and I talked about the fact they had a 6'7" receiver, and they just played jump ball. You know,
Yeah, but I think 6'7", but I think if you look at that roster, all those guys were 6 something.
yeah.
Or where Shelby's roster, their DB roster is, they don't have 1 6-footer on their DB roster. So I think that's where that whole receiving core was bigger.
If this were a basketball game, Shelby would have got out rebounded.
Rebound, absolutely.
Yeah.
With all recalls, they shouldn't have had any.
Well, next week you've got the Reidsville Rams taking on the Clinton Dark Horses. Now, Clinton, over the years, this is their first trip to the finals.
So I don't know if they're still in that system, but they were in one of those systems, kind of like what South Point over here did, or you see South Point run. They was kind of in one of those 3 yards and cloud of dust systems.
Grind it out. And they had some great backs that enabled them to do that.
I don't know if they're still in that system. I haven't seen Clinton in a long time. But they kind of one of them schools that's in their tradition, and it runs through all the way through their Pee-wee teams all the way up through the middle school, and they just run that tradition. And if you go down there to play it, and that's what they run. So this is not a game that's going to be the height of Reidsville and the slow grind of Clinton. If Clinton gets ahead and starts slow grinding this game out and causes Reidsville to speed up.
Yeah, they'll be tough to catch. And I remember watching college football games when Clinton had those good teams, and you would see a lot of college players, particularly running backs, Clinton High School.
Yeah.
Because I know the UNC used a lot of those Clinton running backs because they not too far from Chapel Hill, and they would like to come there, and they had a style of ball at that time which sort of matched what Clinton was playing in the high school level. Well, in a little surprise to me tonight, the Hickory Red Tornadoes stood the test and came away the best. They beat the Dudley Panthers, as you iterated, on a missed extra point, Will. I know the pain, how that feels, man. Get this far, work this hard, and you miss an extra point. But we knew from last week that Dudley did not have a kicking game. There's no field goals that you're going to get from Dudley. So you played your defense accordingly. Crest was pretty much in the same boat. So tonight, it caught them. They lost the game because of a missed field goal, losing to Hickory 42-41. 71st scored 50 points tonight to Northern Nash's 28. Will, give us your thoughts on next week, Hickory versus 71st.
So, surprisingly enough, that Northern Nash team you know how you say a team comes out of the ashes to rises up to the top?
Like a phoenix.
Like a phoenix. That's the kind of rise that the Northern Nash team had this season. And, can't hang their heads down. It had a great season. Get this far in the playoffs. It's a true testament of the will. That 71st team, I mean, that's just off the size of the school. That's a huge, huge school in Raleigh.
Yep.
And I know I spent some time down in Raleigh. I spent 2 years in Raleigh, and I know a little bit about the culture they breed down there. I think it's a little different in Hickory. I think Hickory's more football-minded area.
And they've had some great teams in the past, but they're just now rebuilding that reputation they've had under Coach Glass. And Coach Glass used to coach right here in this area, so people are familiar with him and his style. But he was able to find the players, particularly the quarterback this year, and he put the magic on them, and they came out beating Dudley tonight. And we'll play 71st next week for the state championship.
I like Hickory in that game.
Okay. All right, we've got
So Weddington and Hoggard. How do you say that?
Hoggard.
Hoggard. I have no clue anything about Hoggard. All I know is that they're the number one seed in the East. And to be the number one seed in the East, you're gonna have to be pretty good at playing football.
Yeah, there's no bad teams at this point.
Yeah. So I do know the Weddington story. I know they beat a up and coming Independence team who sparked up at the right time, and they got hot right at playoffs, and they just ran through the playoffs. They took on whoever was in front of them. So congratulations to the Independence team there. Nothing to hang your head down about. You made it to the Western Finals at the 23 spot, so you did very well. Weddington, we know they're gonna run. We know they're gonna pass. You're gonna have to play all fashions. You're gonna have to be good on your special teams because they're gonna be solid all the way around. I don't have enough information about Hoggins to make a good comparison about what that game was gonna be, but I do know that Weddington, you're gonna have to play all fashions of the game. You're gonna have to have a good defense. You're gonna have to have a good offense, and your special teams is gonna have to be on point.
All right, Will. These teams have reached a goal that they've aimed for since the 1st of August. Let's make it to the ship. Well, they're at the ship now, and the ship's either going to sink or sail.
Right.
And you'll be surprised at some of these teams who get to this point and they seem to sink rather than sail. And we'll be back with some more in just a little while. JP, take us on a break.
Ooh. All right.
Maybe we should have a little prayer for all the Shelby and Crest fans tonight,
Absolutely.
Will. Will, you
We could have a prayer. I mean, I just, I know we got to go over some stuff. I want to go over these last
why don't you give us those scores?
last scores.
And then, Will, with your expertise, step back and give us an overall picture of the season. We've had some very good teams with a lot of success this year. Don't forget that. Shelby, 11 in a row. Don't hold
All
your
right,
heads.
right off 3 losses, they come right back and go 11 straight. So I hope the Shelby faithful, the ones that didn't make the trip down to Reedsville tonight, and the ones that did, I hope when them boys step off the bus tonight that the Shelby faithful will be there to pump them up because they went on a terror for 11 games.
Think about that. They were 11-1 after being 0-3. Will,
Yeah,
tip of the hat.
tip of hat. Great season. Same goes out to Kings Mountain had a great season.
Yes.
Chris, that's Chris.
forget Burns.
What a booming season Chris had. Burns had a great season. Bunker Hill.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bunker Hill had a great season.
And Lincoln County schools.
Lincoln, North Lincoln, all went to the playoffs.
And don't
West
forget
Lincoln went to the
East
playoffs.
Rutherford,
East
where
Rutherford
they came from
Right.
to where they ended up.
Yeah.
Tip
East
of the
Rutherford,
hat. Coach
tip of the
Russ
hat.
and the East High School Cavaliers. Watch out for them next year.
I think East is going to be tough next year because they even this year they were still young playing this year because a lot of those kids were freshmen last year playing varsity ball, and then they was sophomores this year, so they were still young.
If they weren't young, they were inexperienced.
Right. So I think they did the things they're going to be tougher to deal with next year. I think Shelby is going to be a dog next year. I really do. I think Shelby is going to be really hard to handle next year. They're super young. They're losing some key components, but they were young this year and they got some playing time to some key component guys, and the offensive line will be older next year.
Who?
The Ursha.
Oh.
Stevie.
Oh, Stevie.
So
All right, JP, put the man on. Win or lose, you can always depend on Steve Degree.
how are you, Steve?
I feel your pain, Steve.
Hey, listen, trust and believe. I understand where you at today.
We were just saying, Steve, if after that 0-3 start, I told you you're going to be 11-1 the rest of the year, you would have said, thank you. That's you, Steve. We know. Oh, tell us all about it, Steve, and just tell us the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching it. Not only did he give y'all fits on offense, he gave you some trouble on that defensive end spot that he was playing.
Well, Steve, I don't know if you heard the score, but Hickory came back tonight and beat Dudley 42-41. So, sometimes it hurts more to lose a close one than it does to lose one that you know that you maybe were outplayed or could have done better. But you never like to lose. And I think this is motivation for your young men next year who will come back. You got a sophomore quarterback. He will be back and will be leading Shelby in a whole different, more experienced, and a better offense than what he was able to run this year. And maybe a lineman or two.
It sounds like you got enough ammunition to start working on firepower for next year. I remember. I remember. But yeah. So let me say this. You talk about Coach Van Etridge. I know him as I know him as a Wolfpack Van Etridge. So that's how long Van goes back with me.
You're talking about the Dover Wolfpack, not the NC State,
No,
because he's an East Carolina man.
I'm talking about the Graham Wolfpack.
Yeah, the Graham Wolfpack. You're gonna tell your age here before long, Will.
when he say Coach Van Etridge, I say I remember him practicing right.
Well, he played a little ball at Shelby, and he played a little ball down at East Carolina.
Yeah.
Don't let him get the big head on you, but we're gonna brag on him just a little bit there, Steve.
I like how he uses the guys that played at Shelby when I like what they do. They keep the guys that played at Shelby. They try to keep them at home and not let them coach anywhere else. So I do appreciate him on that. Tell you and the rest of the coaching staff did an awesome job with the kids this year, especially keeping them focused after going 0-3 to make an 11-game run. Like I was telling Dennis a while ago, I hope the Shelby fan base meet y'all at the stadium tonight when them young men get off the bus. I hope they're there to greet them and to pep them up, because they gave that fan base the most exciting ride this year to go 0-3 and then come out and rattle off 11 straight wins and go to the Western North Carolina finals. That's big time. That's showing a whole lot of heart, and that's staying focused for the football seasons. I know they in Cleveland. They in Cleveland County, so they got that mentality that most of the fans left. I know they got that mentality. If we ain't in the state, we ain't doing that. But I mean, you really got to appreciate where them boys was at and where they came out to be at the end of the season.
Well, Steve, there's an old adage, anybody can get knocked down. It's what you do when you're knocked down. How do you get up? And Shelby got up.
That's it. They didn't stay down there. No, Independence got beat 34-14. They fell to Weddington.
Yeah. You want us just to give you all the scores, Steve? We'll just read them off all the scores there.
So it was Mount Airy 27, Robertsonville 16, Tarboro 49, West Commerce 12. You know the Shelby score. Clinton 36, Northeastern 22, Hickory 42, Dudley 41, 71st 50, and Nash Northern Nash 28. Yeah. Yeah, they ran into a little buzzsaw, but they can't. They was the 23rd team to enter into the playoffs, so they can't hold their head down about anything on that side of the ball. Because 23rd they played one in the Western Finals in the 4A bracket. That's big time. That's playing ball. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the coaching staff and the rest of the Shelby fan base appreciate your devotion to the Shelby High Golden Lions. I know. I appreciate it. Yeah.
And we thank, and Steve, we want to thank you for your contributions to the post-game show this year. That's difficult to be coaching a game and then have to turn around and come over here to the station and give us some insight into the games. But we appreciate the effort that you went through to do that.
I'll see you
All
on
right.
the 14th, my brother.
Sa-
Love you too, brother. Take it easy.
Okay. Steve Degree, folks, and a loyal line as you'll ever run into, coaching over there at his alma mater, and is dedicated to Shelby High School. Will, as a couple of Crest guys, we can appreciate the loyalty he has
Yeah,
for his school.
I can appreciate it.
Because his son played at Crest, and he went to the Shelby games.
So Thursday, Thanksgiving, when the alumni went to practice, I was standing there talking to OJ, and me and him was laughing and talking about his dad. So we had a good talk. He was there with a bunch of his classmates. I felt like the old guy.
I got news for you.
I really felt like the old guy.
That's why I retired from teaching. They kept talking about that old man down the hall, and I was trying to figure out who he was, and then I said, "Oh, it's me." All right. Oh, Will.
I got to watching the '90s group move. I was like, wow, we really was like, we started moving around, and I was like, yeah, we really old now. Like, we really are.
But you're still moving,
We're
Will.
still moving.
Still moving. Well, listen, Will, as you probably have heard, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association had a meeting this week.
And what did they say in that meeting?
Well, with them, it's hard to tell, but, we used to have 4 divisions. And in the 4 divisions we had, they had a subdivision. So you had
the
a 1A and
you had the A and the double A.
Yeah. And then you had the 2 and the 2A.
Or the big A and the little A.
Yeah. So that gave a total of, if my math is correct, 8 teams that were playing in the championship. Well, They just said enough of that confusion thing. So they've gone back to only 4 teams. So it doesn't matter if you're big or little. There's only four teams that are going to walk away with a trophy this year that says state champion. Well, some people didn't take to that too kindly. So they voted this past week. We're going to not have 4 divisions.
8 divisions.
We're going to have 8 divisions. And that means we got 8 teams on one side, 8 teams on the other side. So we're going to have 16 teams in the playoffs.
We're going to be a 8A. We're gonna sound like Texas. We're not gonna look like it, but we're gonna.
We're not gonna play like Texas either.
We're gonna sound like we big as Texas. We're not gonna look anywhere close to being as big as Texas.
I don't know who the man at the trophy shop is, but he did a heck of a sales job.
And he's getting paid.
Well, what I'm gonna do, Will.
Listen, that's football, baseball, basketball. So those are the 3 that we look at. But that's.
Well, now hold
That's
your horses
also
there, Will.
Cross country track.
What I'm going to give you is football. There's a whole sheet over here of, I think, some bunch of teams, believe it or not, that do not play football in North Carolina at the high school level.
Yeah, any
charter
idea
schools.
how many teams don't play high school football at the high school
Yeah,
level?
I had that sheet, and I think I left it at home. But there was a bunch, more than you would ever want to think about. And so what we've got here is we've got a bunch of teams that do not field football. They play basketball. They play softball. They play tiddlywinks. But they don't play no football. So what
I
I'm
wonder
going
if they play field hockey.
Hey, I don't know nothing about no field hockey.
Do you know out east? The Eastern schools, they play field hockey.
Oh, Gardner-Webb's got a field hockey team.
They play
Carolina
field hockey.
has a national championship field
Field
hockey team.
They don't play field hockey around here. I don't think I've ever heard of a field hockey team being played.
That's girls in little short skirts running around with a stick in their hand. Anyway, I won't get into that. But
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. You would think if the Eastern now they might be getting ready to play some hockey out east too, because they got the arenas and stuff to do hockey out there. We can't do high school hockey here.
All right, Will, here's what I've got. I'm going to give you a rundown on the local schools. I'm going to give you their projected ADM, and I'm going to give you their projected level of competition.
Okay.
We're going to start with a school that you may not be familiar with from Gaston County, Piedmont Community School.
Yes. They do not have a.
They don't have a football team, but they do play some sports, as we're talking about. They would be in the 1A division. Now, this is going to go from 1 to 8. Now, let's go down to talk about some teams that do play football. And what we're going to run into here is we're going to run into a whole bunch of schools that we're not going to talk about. We're just going to go with the ones that are in our listening area or play schools within our listening area. And the next school is Robbinsville. We heard about them too.
Absolutely.
They have a population, an ADM of 329 students in Graham County. They're a public school. They will be what's classified in the future as 2A.
Okay.
Okay.
So they moving up.
Yep. And you've got Hayesville, which is over in Clay County and has 372 students. They will be 2A. Now, notice what we've got here. We've got schools with lower numbers in the 1A division. And then we start getting to some more familiar schools that are in this 2A division. Thomas Jefferson with 397 students. They're going to be 2A. Cherokee, which we hear about in our teams playing some, they're going to be 2A with 413 students. Now, most people wonder, they hear it on here, Christ the King is a Catholic school in Mecklenburg County. They have 416 students. They will be in 2A. Elkin, we talked about the, the Battling Elks or whatever. We've given them a couple of different names up there.
The Bucking Elks.
The Bucking Elks. I think never mind. I don't want to fall into that pit. But Elkin has 421 students, and they're in Surrey County, and they will be in 2A, along with Corvavian Community College from Mecklenburg County with 436 students. And by the way, their head principal and everything got fired this week for dipping her fingers into the funds at the school. Cherryville.
Just in case y'all didn't know.
Anything else you want to know?
We get you all kind of news here. Like,
Hey.
we bring you all the hot topics from high school.
We know everything.
We know everything.
Cherryville, Coach Pruitt, you're going to be 2A with 500 students. Mitchell, you're going to be 2A with 509 students. East Wilkes is going to be 2A with 527 students. Highland Tech, one of our favorites, is going to be 2A with 528 students. Bessemer City is going to be 2A with 535 students. Mountain Island Charter is going to be 2A with 541 students. And Greg Lloyd is going to be 2A at Starmount with 541 students. Now, Will, those are pretty well equals. They've tried to keep all these schools very close in attendance. Kevin's talked about, if we could take roster, we could make them even closer. Because like Shelby has a pretty big roster, but not necessarily a big ADM, if you will. All right, let's go on to the 3A schools. Listen carefully, folks. If you are in Avery County, where I did my student teaching a few years ago, yeah, I know you laughed at that one, didn't you? They have 587 students, home of Tommy Burleson.
He did his student teaching before I was born, and I'm an old man.
Yeah, we used to go out to the log cabin and read by the fire. They're going to be 3A with 587 students.
Not that kind of
Be
log
quiet,
fire.
JP. We'll call you if we need you.
Not that you thinking about one of them. JP is doing the kumbaya, my lord. He thinking about one of them. What they used to peace pipe smoking log fire. That's the wrong one.
Oh well, I don't know if you saw the pregame show tonight, but Shannon had on a Polk County football
Polk
jersey.
County football.
But he's talking about the Polk County that the guy from Married with Children played
Hey,
on.
Al Bundy. He had on the 33 Polk County from Al Bundy.
Yep. And
That's
Polk,
North Carolina Polk County. That Polk County was in Illinois.
Yeah, this Polk County is going to be 3A with 590 students. Mount Airy, a school that we hear about from time to time, with 614 students, is going to be 3A. Pine Lake Prep. Well, we hear that name often here. They've got 680 students. They're going to be 3A. And over in Rutherford County, Chase. With 680 students are going to be 3A. East Rutherford, a school that came a long way this year, they're going to be in the 3A at 707 students. And Terry Reinhardt, bless your heart, West Lincoln, with 733 students, is going to be 3A. And Terry, Lincolnton, your nemesis, is going to be 3A with 768. Hendersonville with 771 will be 3A.
That's good.
And
That's going to be
Lincoln
a tough
Charter,
That's going to be a tough
772 students will be 3A. Patton, 774 students, they'll be 3A. And Steve Degree, 775 students over at Shelby, you're going to be 3A next year, buddy. Now, that's different than the 3A this year. Reedsville. You can thank this, Steve. 801 students, they're going to be 4A. So you won't be playing them next in 2025. I'm trying to look. We go a long ways here until we get to RS Central. RS Central has 812 students. They'll be 4A. So it'll be RS and Shelby playing each other. Maiden, 875 students.
Is RS and Shelby going to be? I thought Shelby was going to be 3A.
Yeah, Shelby's 3A. Okay, I'm sorry.
RS is going to be 4A.
Yeah. RS is 4A. Maiden is going to be 4A, 875. Bunker Hill is going to be 4A at 880. Ashe County is going to be 4A at 889. East Burke's going to be 4A at 893. Bandy's is going to be 4A
That's
with
gonna
906.
Be tough. That's going to be tough.
Newton Conover is going to be 4A with 907. Oh, Burns is going to be 4A
That's going to be tough right
with
there.
913.
That's
Sounds
gonna be
like
tough right there.
some interesting games. All right, moving right along. Fred T. Ford, is going to be 5A with 934 students. Statesville is going to be 5A with 946. Stuart Kramer is going to be 5A with 948. High Brighton with 970 is going to be 5A. South Point, Will, 5A at 978. Salisbury, 979 students. They're going to be 5A also.
Be in trouble.
North Gaston, 1,058 students, 5A. West Henderson, 1,059 students, 5A.
Trouble.
Monroe, 1,077 students, 5A. East Lincoln, 1,087 students, 5A. And hold your horses, Will. Crest, with 1,095 students, is going to be 5A. Forest View, with 1,105, is going to be 5A. Huss, with 1,105, is going to be 5A.
North is going to be 5A.
North Lincoln, with 1,135, is going to be 5A. Well, that takes a lot of teams in our area into account, but we've got a few more schools. One that played tonight,
That's tough.
Hickory,
That's tough.
with 1,215 students, is going to be 6A.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's Murder's Row right there.
Yep. St. Stephen's, with 1,251, is going to be 6A.
High Point Central.
Yep. Kings Mountain, with 1,299 students, is going to be 6A.
AC Reynolds.
Ashbrook, with 13.7, is going to be 6A. Charlotte Catholic, with
That's
13.08.
tough. That's Murder's Row right there.
Yeah, welcome back, Charlotte Catholic. They're going to be 6A. Harding University, remember playing them
Yes,
back in the
sir.
day? They're going to be 6A with 1367. Dudley, with 1399, is going to be 6A. Alexander Central, they used to be in our conference back in the day. With 1405, they're going to be 6A. Mount Tabor, they dropping down a little bit.
Southwestern 4A.
They got 1,444 students. They're going to be 6A. And T.C. Roberson, with 1,546, is going to be 6A. Now, that moves along. We get a lot of our schools out of the way here until we come to Freedom. All you folks, and by the way, the football coach over there just resigned and stepped aside. They're looking for a coach. If you want to apply, call the Freedom Athletic Department, because they're going to be 7A with 1,574 students.
Oh, wow.
Watauga is going to be 7A with 1,576. South Caldwell is going to be 7A with 1,579. McDowell is going to be 7A with 1,681. That actually helps McDowell because they hadn't had anybody to play. West Mecklenburg, remember them? The Indians? They're going to be 7A at 1845, and Weddington's going to be there too at 1849. And let's see, West Charlotte, they're going to be 8A at 2009. Independence is going to be 8A at 2133. Mallard Creek, 8A at 2306. North Mecklenburg at 2309 is going to be 8A. East Mecklenburg at 2431 is going to be 8A. Huff is going to be 2563. Chris Hawk, I think, still over there. Chambers at 2747 is going to be 8A. South Mecklenburg, 3331 is going to be 8A. And Myers Park, the Mustangs, at 3557 is going to be 8A. Will?
3557 makes 8A.
Yep. You got the big boy.
3557 is going. 3557 is going to be the same grade as 2000. West Charlotte was ranked 8A at 2000, and they're 8A with 3557 being.
Well,
8A.
It's hard to find big schools, and especially in Charlotte where they got so many of them and building more.
Yeah.
So, Will, what's your thoughts on that?
Well,
Let it rip, Tater Chip.
So my thoughts on that is they just found another way to make their money back where they lost it. Let's just see how the conferences play out. How they gonna where they gonna be? How the conference is gonna lay out? Who's gonna be in the conference? How far these games are gonna be away, and that's what's gonna be the real thing. If we get into a gas crunch again, are they gonna start paying for these teams gas to travel to make sure that they got money to get back and forth to these games?
Well, with $40 million in the bank, they might want to come up with a gas credit card for some of these teams on the road.
This is a North Carolina high school football is a business in its own. Not North Carolina high school sports. North Carolina high school football is a major business in its own. I'll say without a doubt, North Carolina football brings the most of the money in.
Well, Will, the one thing that I'd like to think, and we can't guarantee it, but this time next year, we'll be reporting on these same 4 levels. But in 2025, we may have to expand this to a 3-hour show.
But this time next year, we will already by this time next year we'll be knowing how that those conferences are going to break down and break out. So we'll have a heads up a little bit on
yeah,
more.
we can tell you who's going where, and it wouldn't surprise me. We'll have some combination conferences where you maybe have a 3 and a 4 together, or a 5 and a 6 together because of driving and mileage that you talked about. We'll also have some rivalries in there that they'll be playing from time to time, and we'll be able to.
I would if they're going to do it and do it right. I would love to see these go straight. If it's a 5A conference, just straight 5A teams.
Love to have it that way.
Love to have it that way. If it's a 1A conference, just 1A teams. It just makes sense. That way you got you did this for a reason. So these schools, you will have these schools that are smaller playing against the schools that are smaller.
The problem comes in geographically when you have a small school in the West and no small school around him. Or you have a large school in the West and you have no school around him. Yeah. I've noticed they've tended to even that up. I used McDowell as an example. McDowell could not get anybody to play because they were 4A. Now they've got Watauga and Freedom and some of those schools that will form them natural rivalries. Well, folks, we're going to be closing out here tonight a little bit earlier than we normally do because we had one school and we don't want to just wear you out. It's been a fantastic year. I can speak, I think, for Kevin and all the guys that have come in here. we've got JP back here running the board for us, Calvin, who's done a fantastic job of promoting high school sports in North Carolina. Guys that are on the call, we can start naming them, but we got so many of them. But Jeff and Brent tonight, Tom Cinefani will be here in the morning doing. If you haven't listened to the Saturday morning show, tune in for that. We'd love to have you listen in on Saturday morning as well as Friday night. We've got a fantastic sports lineup here, and it involves a lot of people and money to make this happen. And so, on behalf of myself, Will, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to say if there's anybody who's out there looking to sponsor high school sports through a local station where these games get covered, KTC Broadcasting is the place. It takes money to do these games, and it takes money to cover the sports and to have the sports shows afterwards. But it takes money to build these villages that we live in also. So we gotta have a space to showcase these kids, and I think having our own space to showcase them in is big time. So anybody who want to rally behind KTC Broadcasting, it's more than welcome. If you got a business that you need some advertising in, that you need to get to the local folk, you want to use KTC Broadcasting to do that. And I appreciate everybody here at the station, everybody out there listening that tunes in every week and watch the shows during the week. I appreciate everybody. Been great. Dennis, we got another year under the belts.
Yeah. And Will, I started in the pregame show with a salute to my old friend from freshman days at college at Gardner-Webb, Paul Shimboski, a football official for many, many years, and a golden line. All you golden lines out there, we lost Paul this week. He was a fantastic guy, a great football fan and official, and a contributor over the years. Paul, we appreciate you and your efforts, as we do all the people here at KTC Broadcasting. Thank you, and good night for another season.
We'll see y'all the next season.
We'll be back.